in which every single human being can freely share in the sum of all knowledge. And we know that we're not yet achieving that. We've spent a lot of time the last couple of days talking about the various impediments and what the problems are. From my perspective, I think I have seen a sharpening in our conversations about that. Perhaps that's a change in me because I've been with the organization now for a couple of years, but I've seen a sharpening and increased focusing. It feels like to me we're talking about reach and how to get to people in the world who we're not currently reaching. We're talking about participation. There's been a lot of talk, particularly over the last couple of days, about participation rates and are they flagging and what do we need to do to ensure a healthy and vibrant community. And we've been talking a lot about quality, partly because Nolan Cohen wrote an article about flag revisions that drew a lot of attention. So I think there are a number of questions that face us. I have my own list of what I think is most important. You probably all have your own list of what you think is important. And what we need to be doing and what we will be doing for the strategy project is figuring out what are the things that are getting in our way and how can we remove those impediments so that we're actually achieving this vision, what we're all here to do, what we're setting out to do. I want to tell you a little bit about the last couple of years for me. So I've been with the Wikimedia Foundation for 2 years. So 2 years ago, I stood on a stage, that's Laurent, I stood on a stage very much like this one in Taipei. That was when I first came to the organization. I spent my first year with you people just fixing simple things. I hired a lawyer, and we got through the audit, and I tried to figure out how much money we had and how long that money would last us. That was year one. Year two, I spent building a base for us to grow from and to work from. So I moved the Wikimedia Foundation to San Francisco. We hired quite a few staff members, many of whom are here. And we hired our first fundraising team, and we spent the past year experimenting and trying to figure out how much support we could raise, how much money we could raise to get our work done and to support you guys in the work that you're trying to do. And that year, what we learned was that there is a lot of support for the Wikimedia Foundation, and there's a lot of support for the Wikimedia project. There are lots of people who want to help us. So, what is that?
Draw.
Yeah, draw.
¿Qué pasa? Sí, es que está el mismo, Mira, espera, es que en la foto son el mismo,
I
la
don't
misma
ever have a
posición.
slide for this, so let's not have a slide for a second. So in the past 2 years, I've spent a lot of time listening to different people. I spent a lot of time talking to people who don't understand Wikimedia very well, outsiders. I talk to them about what you guys do, and I talk to you guys as well. And I've been doing quite a bit of traveling. Now, I don't travel anywhere near as much as, for example, Jimmy Wales, who I think spends about 300 days of the year on the road. That's appropriate because Jimmy actually pays for his own travel, and the Wikimedia Foundation has to pay for my travel. So it trying to be a little bit judicious. But having said that, I have in the past 2 years, I went to Amsterdam and talked to people there. I was in Taipei, obviously, and I talked to folks there. I've been to Frankfurt, Alexandria, Egypt, with a number of people here. Last year we were in Alexandria. I went to Bangalore last winter with Jimmy. I was in Davos last winter. I went to Berlin for the all chapters meeting and for the board meeting. I was in Tel Aviv fairly recently, and of course now I'm here in Buenos Aires. So I've gone to a number of cities, and I've had a lot of conversations with people, and I think that there are 3 main things that I would take away from all those conversations that I've had, and I wanted to share them with you because I think I have an opportunity to talk to people about Wikimedia a lot, which we all have. So I've had a lot of conversations. So the first thing that I think is worth saying is people all around the world really love the work that you guys are doing. They love it. So I had a woman in the Wikimedia office a couple months ago, and I was talking to her about the volunteers and the things that they do, and she actually started to cry when we were talking about it. She wasn't sobbing, but she did actually tear up, and she didn't really do it because of Wikipedia. She likes Wikipedia, and she uses it. But what I think was really inspiring to her was the people behind Wikipedia, you people, and the work that you do. So I had told her, I had told her about Katie, who went to Berlin for the developers meeting on her own dime, for her own reasons, went to Berlin and attended the developers meeting. I told about a Portuguese architect I discovered who travels around Europe taking photographs of historic buildings and putting them up on Wikimedia Commons. And I told her about a woman in Jerusalem as well, who I wanted to get to meet, but I never had a chance. The tour guide who had a baby, and her baby happened to be, I gather, a quiet and well-behaved child. And so she spent her time at home with the baby, updating and improving the Hebrew Wikipedia articles about Israeli culture and heritage. And this woman found it all really, really moving, and the reason she did was she found everything that you do inspiring, and I think she found it inspiring because it gave her hope for the future, right? I think if you're older, you think about kids today, and you think, oh, kids today, what are they up to? There's nothing good, right? And I think that she, after hearing some of the stories of the people here, I think she realized that, you know, the kids today are doing amazing things. They're maybe not doing them in the same ways that people used to do them 10, 20, 30 years ago, but the work that you're doing is inspiring to people like that. It makes them feel happy. It makes them feel optimistic. It makes them feel like the future is going to be a better place, which I think we all believe. The second thing I take away from the people that I talk to, and this is more about you guys than people I talk to about you guys, and I feel a little uncomfortable because we're not a very effusive group of people. We're not the warmest group of people. But I will say, you are really extraordinary. The work that you do is unbelievable. I knew this when I met you in Amsterdam. I reaffirmed it again in Taipei. I reaffirmed it again in Alexandria. Every time I come to Wikimania, I am sustained for an entire year. Of whatever irritating, frustrating things happen to me, I'm sustained for the year by the memories that I have of talking to you folks. I think about, you know, the first Wikipedian I ever met who talked to me about the British North America Act, Section 92A of the British North America Act, and I will always be struck by how odd I found it that someone in the Netherlands actually knew anything about the British North America Act. I think about the woman who knows everything that there is to know, apparently, about mollusks, and I think about the fact that you all know more about copyright law than any sane, sensible human being. I think you're all wonderful. I really do. And I think we should just take a moment to sort of praise you all for how great you are and for everything that you're doing. And then the third thing that I've observed and that I wanted to talk about is I think it's really important for us all to understand that people want to help us. Good people all around the world. I talk to them all the time, and they want to help us. And I believe that we are pretty suspicious of outsiders. And there are good reasons for that. We're suspicious of outsiders because you all have built this extraordinary thing, and it's incredibly popular, it's increasingly important, it's relevant, it's used by people all around the world all the time. And what that does is it opens you up, it opens the project up, and it makes them vulnerable to exploitation, right? We know that. It took me a little while to get my head around that, to really understand the seriousness of that issue, but it's true. People want to monetize the traffic that goes to Wikipedia, and then, of course, all kinds of people want to use Wikipedia to advance their own agenda, whether it's political or corporate or personal, right? So it's understandable to me that we're suspicious of outsiders, but I think it's a problem for us also. I think we really need to open ourselves up to external people who want to help us. They love us, they want to do a good job, they want to support us, they want to bring us infrastructure, they want to bring us resources, they want to bring us their expertise, and I think it's important that we open the doors and let some of those people